setting up cleanup. We talked about taking companies to give them immunity across the state, manufacturers to take a portion of their revenue for cleanup. That was talked about last year. But none of that shows up online because all we did in committee, all we did in the Judiciary Committee was talk about the issue. So we didn't update any of the language because the only way to update the language is to pass it out. So all those conversations happened last year when we worked on it.
So what about the cities that are suing these companies, right? I mean, they're representing a body of people, the citizens of those cities, right? Why can't they sue these corporations then?
They can sue the corporations. If the corporations knew the product was bad and used it anyway, they're still liable. So the city of Dalton wants to sue Mohawk because they think what was on PBS is true. Mohawk's still liable. That doesn't change that.
What's the cleanup effort look like then? Well, how much money is going into that? I mean, what about people?
So the reality about cleanup is, I don't know if have you ever been in a lawsuit? Have you ever been sued for
I
anything?
have not.
Okay. So if you're ever in a car wreck and you get sued by somebody, like your lawyer's going to tell you not to say anything, not to do anything until everything gets figured out. And that's where we're at with this issue.
So you
These
can't
companies
tell
can't
it, huh?
focus on clean. No, not me tell you. Companies can't focus and help to clean up stuff because if they do, it'll be used against them in a court of law. We had conversations about that as well and said, can we change the evidentiary process of the state of Georgia that says if you help with cleanup in regards to PFAS, then that can't be used against you in a court of law. That can't be evidence that's permissible.
I'm just not buying it, man. How much money is going into the cleanup? I mean, how much is it going to cost?
Oh, it's
how
gonna
much
cost
are they
a
going to put
fortune.
into it? And then the people who are harmed, right? I mean, we've all drank this water, right?
Yep,
we've all
absolutely.
bathed in this water. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in our food.
Yep.
So what happens if I get sick, she gets sick, somebody else gets sick? I mean, and they get cancer or whatever, right? That's a lead up because of this PFAS.
This process is still in place.
So but I mean, you're just adding on these extra layers.
I'm not
Just
adding
let it
the
be as it is now, right?
It's
if they go down, they go down.
To sue everybody, it's unsustainable. It's unsustainable to sue everybody. It's not fair to companies that didn't have any knowledge of it. That's the best way I
They
just.
wouldn't be held liable, would they, if they had no knowledge?
That's what
In
the
my
tobacco
legislation,
company
correct.
said.
Who are you saying didn't have knowledge?
Right.
Because we know that Mohawk and Shaw did.
So
He's talking
international
about other
paper,
companies,
for
smaller.
instance, and or even big companies. International Paper just got sued by the city of Savannah. International Paper was recycling boxes and into other boxes. Well, they didn't know those boxes they had PFAS in them.
Right.
So their product has PFAS in it because it's not going anywhere. So all these people are getting sued that didn't have anything to do with PFAS. And I'm just saying, look, if they knew and it was bad and they used it anyway, sue them.
Who co-wrote the bill? Because
We worked with attorneys from.
lead counsel of Mohawk?
We worked with some folks from
lead
Mohawk.
counsel of Mohawk was
We
a
worked
big
with
contributor.
we worked with the Republican members on the committee that are attorneys to help us draft the negligence piece. We worked with the Manufacturing Association about the revenue sharing for cleanup. So we worked with there's probably 6 or 7 entities we worked with. There was an engineering firm that got sued down in Columbus because they literally drew some plans for a garbage a dump. They drew the engineering plans for that. They got sued because that dump ended up having PFAS in it, and it cost them $150,000 just to say just to be able to walk away because it was going to cost them.
But they're not out of business.
Huh?
They're not out of business.
But do you think it's right to sue somebody that had nothing to do with PFAS?
They had something to do with it, or they wouldn't have been held responsible,
An
Casey.
engineering firm?
Yeah.
They had something to do with it, or they wouldn't have been held responsible.
No, but they don't. That's not how it works. That's not how this works.
That is
you
how it
sue
works.
everybody and know that it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to settle or millions of dollars to prove you're right.
That's why they have insurance. We know they have insurance.
Okay, so we're going to move to a
They're
country
a
where you're guilty.
multi-million billion-dollar corporation.
We're going to move to a
They're
country
not.
where you're guilty until proven innocent.
You're supposed to be representing us.
Right? Like, let's say I'm the defendant, right? They're
Right.
going to ask me what I knew. They're going to look for evidence, right? That's going to go through discovery, and then that's going to go through the whole legal process. And if a judge or heck, the jury, right? They say, okay, I mean, this company had no idea, right? What they were buying was dangerous. I mean, sure, then maybe they'll let them go, but you can't just make a law to give them like a blanket,
but
a
when you
blanket
say let them go,
protection.
when you say you let them go, it cost them $1 million to get to the let them go part.
Does it really
Aw.
cost them $1 million? I mean, is that a
Poor
ballpark
baby
number?
corporation.
I know 2 companies in town that settled for $300,000
Right.
that was facing to prove $1 million to prove they didn't have anything to do with it.
So what about the Dalton Utilities lawsuit? Are they gonna win enough money to get us a good filtration system in there?
I hope so.
So that's what you're counting on. You're gonna let Dalton Utilities take the load. The local people don't have a right to exercise their own lawsuit. It doesn't make sense.
But you do have the right to. Who said you couldn't sue?
Well, the way your bill is written, and what is the term, gross negligence?
negligence.
Those large carpet companies are going to be able to buy their own expert witnesses. They'll have the most qualified,
But
conniving lawyers.
That's the same
Individuals
standard.
here are
That's
not
the
able
same
to do
standard
that.
we use in car accidents. It's the same standard we use in car accidents.
So that
It's
makes
the
it
same
right.
standard we use in medical claims.
This is
Well, yeah, but you're under.
No, but I'm
this is-
saying it's not. I didn't make the standard up.
Well,
Like
you're-
that's a normal standard.
But that's not part.
No, it's not. It's a legal standard.
The standard, Casey, is strict joint and several liability.
Huh?
It's called strict joint and several liability. So what this bill would do, it obviates federal law. There's been a long-standing law for 46 years. It's called joint, several, and several liability. So let me tell you, I've got the story back goes to 2008. I was coming back from a permitting project, meeting with Corps of Engineers for industrial properties in San Francisco. The tar button family. You
Yeah,
may
I know. Yeah, I know the tar buttons.
Yeah. So anyway, I was coming back and this thing on PFAS about Dalton, Georgia. It was a 2-hour program. I get back to the office and I went to the chief engineer's office. I work for Laurel.
Right.
I said, "What is this PFAS thing?" He's closed the door. And I'm not under any confidentiality agreement, so I'm going to go and say it. This is 2008. They've been consulting with the Carpet and Rug Institute long before that to prevent PFAS chemicals from being regulated chemicals under law. So
Okay.
the carpet industry knew this. So that's why I'm saying this. The strict joint and several liability goes back 46 years under circular. So it would potentially obviate federal law. And as we all know, no state law can be passed that is weaker than federal law.
Yeah, but so I would argue that under federal law they're not guilty because they met all federal requirements for the use of the product. So they're not guilty under the feds as we sit right now, as we sit today, and they're not suing in federal court. Nobody's suing in federal court.
That's because we need more discovery. That's why they don't need
No,
to be protected.
it's because they met the federal guidelines. That's why you're not getting sued in federal court.
Yeah, another thing too. So Jay
go
Leonard Ledbetter, who was the EPD chair,
Right.
He was my boss.
Okay.
At the consulting firm. So he's the one that permitted the land application system.
Yeah.
Also, his idea to utilize the wastewater for the cooling towers at the power plant.
Okay.
So anyway, my thought, and then when he came to law, he was part of this consultancy to the Carpet and Rug Institute.
Right.
So anyway, they knew about it. They definitely knew about
And
it.
if that's the case, they're still liable. Nothing in my legislation makes them not liable if they know about it.
Do you
If what we saw on PBS is the truth, if what we saw on PBS was the truth, if we all believe that's the truth,
The
then these.
journal said it was the truth.
Well, the
so-
PBS fact-checked everything 3 times.
I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying if we believe it's true, then these companies will still be liable. True or false?
Then why the legislation?
Because there's a lot of companies that are getting dragged into this that isn't true about.
And
So-
they can prove in court.
so your
they can
worry
prove that
is-
before, to his point earlier.
is the smaller companies getting screwed
Correct.
over, right?
Well,
so why
they
did you
are.
explicitly put that, like, let's just say that we had a middle ground, right? And you put in a cap for the value of a company at
Right.
which it'll protect or not protect in a liability.
Well, so I don't know that if numbers like that if that's legal.
Okay.
But I would also argue that International Paper piece, that is a very big company that's tied up in this that didn't have anything to do with it.
Okay.
So I mean, there are large companies, and this is just we got lawsuits here.
Uh-huh.
There's lawsuits in Savannah. and there's about 5 other lawsuits going on that'll be dropped in the next year
Do you
in
think
other communities.
companies like Shaw or Mohawk are grossly negligent?
I mean, I think
Well, I mean, what's your opinion
I
on
think they
that?
got to prove that after the PBS thing. I
What's
think they got to
your
prove it.
opinion? I know there's a lot of evidence that needs to come up, but what is your opinion on that?
My personal opinion is, I don't really know, to be honest with you.
I mean,
I don't know if they did.
right. I mean, we
they're
could all take a
so
guess,
they're
right?
telling me they don't know.
Right.
But
I mean,
or
I can
Mohawk
take a
is. I
guess,
hadn't even
right?
talked to Shaw about this.
Right.
The only reason I know Mohawk's because I talked to the guy.
Right.
But if I mean,
I feel like
they're
you
gonna have
should
to-
know,
I
though,
think-
right? As a representative, I mean, you should have some idea of, I mean, what these guys are involved in, right? Especially with a
Yeah,
topic
but-
as big as PFAS.
I mean, so they're not. If they knew, they wouldn't tell me.
Okay.
They wouldn't tell you because they're gonna prove it in court, right?
You couldn't ask
I
them?
think they're
I
gonna.
mean,
I mean, I could ask.
I mean,
them,
you are.
did
I mean,
know?
you are a very influential
Did you-
person, right? I mean,
yeah,
you
but I
would
mean that
think
ain't how it works. Yeah, I knew that. No, but what I will tell you is, after I would say they're gonna have to prove they didn't know. Clearly, after PBS, they're gonna have to prove they didn't know.
Yeah.
That's what
Which I'm
everyone
okay
has to
with.
prove. At
Listen,
every level, that's what
But that
everyone has to
can't be-
prove.
It can't be carte blanche every level, though. How
It can
How is
be.
that fair?
It doesn't
How
matter
is that
it's fair.
fair?
It's how our system is set up, how it's always been set up for many, many years now. And you're going to turn us over to them?
I'm
How
not.
is it fair that our water's?
So let me ask you this question. If there's this much money in the world for cleanup of PFAS, if there's this much money, if this is the number for PFAS cleanup, and this much money is spent in the courtroom, how much money does that leave for cleanup?
Don't worry, there's more.
Their legal fees should not rob their cleanup responsibility, especially
But
if they're
if
found
there's an
guilty.
infinite amount of money,
And you're
They
trying
wouldn't.
to tell us there's
but
an
I'm
infinite
saying-
amount of money
I'm
in
saying
this
there's not an
culture?
infinite amount of money.
There is. When we're being run by oligarchs at this point? Come on.
Okay. There's not an infinite amount of money. That's what I'm trying to say.
For sure we don't have it, I can tell you that.
Liability